Yeah, I'm like Neo now. That's Morpheus.
Kyle and DeMar weren't Kyle and DeMar out of the gate.
Kyle and DeMar.
Kyle and DeMar.
Kyle and DeMar.
Kyle and DeMar.
Lowry and DeRozan.
They didn't talk for the first year.
Man, stop playing with me, man. I'm trying to be professional.
I just couldn't stand him.
He was the guy trying to be a star. I was a kid not wanting to be here.
He couldn't wait to get out of town, and we couldn't wait for him to leave.
You know what that is? Next question.
Was he a pain in the butt? Absolutely.
He was a handful.
We know what Kyle would do. Call him a pit bull. But DeMar DeRozan will cut your heart out.
DeRozan throws it down! What I really enjoy about these two is that they love playing together.
To watch those two guys grow, it was beautiful to see.
Sometimes the best stories in the NBA are the ones you can't see coming.
This is the story of DeMar and Kyle, of Kyle and DeMar. To tell their tale and how they ended up in Toronto, we need to go back, way back, to 2006. Remember this guy, Rob, the guy who traded Vince Carter? Well, he was fired, and the franchise needed legit leadership.
I'd met Bryan. He had NBA DNA, right? Right from the start.
This is Bryan.
His father, Jerry, was a legend.
This is his dad, Jerry, the guy Chuck just mentioned. You might remember Jerry from such films as Raptors Delight Part 1, REBIRTH.
Toronto is an exciting market for us, and we're very happy to have the Bitoff Group as a member of the NBA, and we're very excited about it.
Man, that was exciting.
I went to Jerry, myself, and said, Jerry, I'd like permission to talk to Bryan.
He had some great years in Phoenix. He built some great teams led by Steve Nash.
The idea that Bryan Colangelo would leave all of that and come to Toronto, it was almost hard to imagine that was actually true.
Yeah, but it was true. Behind the scenes, though, Phoenix never offered him a contract extension. So maybe not as shocking as Grange made it sound.
And I phoned Bryan, and he was all interested.
We said that we were going to strive to hire a president and general manager for the Raptors that was very experienced and proven in the NBA. Today, I'm delighted to announce that we have done just that.
I saw a great opportunity, but there was definitely going to be some things that needed to change.
First of all, it was weird. They brought in Bryan Colangelo during the season. I'm like, whoa. Now, I understood he didn't hire me, and I understood that he could fire me. But I felt like if I do my job and show him that I was competent and knew what I was doing, that we could work through those things.
Sam's the coach of this team, and he's got an absolutely clean slate.
For now. But the insecurity of star players always leaving was still very real.
There was just this perception that it wasn't the place to be.
Here's Bosh.
One of the biggest challenges we had when I first walked in the door was Chris Bosh's rookie scale extension. We had to get that taken care of.
Chris Bosh became a free agent. Everybody thought Chris was leaving.
The possibility of him moving on and not re-signing with the team, it would have been devastating.
We didn't send a contingency over to Chris Bosh's house. They sent me by myself. It's me, Chris, and his mother, just the three of us. And I said, young fella, go to Chicago. They got the Blackhawks, they got the White Sox, they got the Cubs, they got the Bulls, they got the Bears. I said, go somewhere like that. I said, but in Toronto, you got the whole country. So you go fight in a city like Chicago for attention, or you stay here and have a country fall in love with you. And I left. He signed the next day.
Ahead on the news, Back to the Future.
I'm thrilled today to be announcing the extension being signed.
The Raptors plan ahead by securing Chris Bosh for at least 4 more years.
With a hammer.
This is a terrific opportunity to make Chris Bosh the foundation as we move forward building this franchise.
For the next 3 to 4 years, we won't have to worry about, trades and unhappiness and all that stuff.
Chris is going to be here for a long period of time, and hopefully, he'll be a Raptor for the rest of his basketball career.
Oh, not true. Not true at all. He'll break your heart a little later, and we'll tell you all about it.
The start of a long season, man. We're going to do it one play at a time, one game at a time. Raptors on 3. 1, 2, 3.
You look at that season in 06-07, it's almost an instant turnaround. And it looked like everything that Bryan Colangelo touched turned to gold.
I think more than anything, it was that the group was coming together, and Sam was the catalyst for that.
CB, TJ, get it here. Set this pick. Joey, you come hard. To the corner. CB, you start here, pop, catch it here.
Sometimes chemistry just has a way of like working its way out. They weren't worried about individual stats, they were worried about the team, and I thought Sam did a great job.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Mitchell, the 2006-2007 NBA Coach of the Year.
Some people say don't do too much too fast when you're building something because expectations will only get higher.
Here's Bosh for a second three in the ball game.
That wasn't my mentality, and maybe it was a mistake, but rather than slow down, manage expectations, we pushed the gas and tried to keep moving in that positive direction.
That year, the Raptors made the playoffs for the first time since the Vince Carter era. And guess who they faced?
Vince Carter returns to Toronto as a member of the New Jersey Nets, and he will face the new face of the franchise, Chris Bosh.
I still go back to that opening game at home to see 19,000 people dressed in red.
The sea of red here at the Air Canada Centre. The Raptors handing out 20,000 red T-shirts.
It brought chills, to everyone. It still does when I think about it.
Yeah, cool story. But the Raptors weren't wearing red that day. The Nets were, though.
This might be the first time in my playoff situation where I've ever seen the opposing crowd come out and wear, the same color as the opposing team. I think that right there really gave us a little jolt of energy to start off the game, and I'd like to thank all the Toronto people for that.
Let me just say this about the Nets series. The Raptors lost Game 6 in New Jersey. Jose underthrew Bosh.
Calderon at the top of the circle. He threw it away, intercepted by Jefferson. This ball game is over, and the Raptors season is over.
If this pass is just a little bit higher, a little bit more to the rim, see Bosh is wide open, just waiting for that ball.
And we are talking wide open. A little bit higher trajectory, and he would have caught that ball, probably dunked it to end the ball game. Bosh would have caught the ball and dunked it. Raptors win the game, and they're headed back to Toronto in Game 7. And there was no way in the world the Nets were going to win Game 7 in Toronto. Book it. No way.
Way. That'll happen 7 years later, and about 30 minutes from now in this dock.
I talked to Chris after the series. He was feeling really good about the future of the franchise.
With Sam, he hit it out of the park. Coach of the Year, 06-07, just kind of exceeding everyone's expectations. And then each year after that got a little bit worse.
Decimated in Denver, and now Sam Mitchell is done as the head coach of the Toronto Raptors.
Here's what President and General Manager Bryan Colangelo had to say about his decision to fire Mitchell.
It was a very difficult decision to make. It was a long, drawn-out discussion and thought process.
I think, Bryan had seen enough, and he walked into his hotel room in Denver. He says, look, we'll sleep on it. We'll talk in the morning, and Sam was fired by lunch.
I'm a young coach. I'm not your guy. And what I realized about the NBA and professional sports, sometimes management spends so much time getting caught up in the who's my guy that they can't even see the forest for the trees. They don't even see the guy that should be your guy is the guy sitting there. Because after they got their guy, how did that work out? How was that?
It was a lot of fun.
Jay Triano has been named his interim replacement and will likely hold the coaching reins the rest of the season.
I'm a Canadian. I'm finally doing this, and I'm doing it in my city. That's pretty cool that I was able to be the first Canadian to do something like this.
Okay, so everything we just told you was for a reason. If there was no Bryan, no Jay, no Mark, there might not be a DeMar in Toronto.
I remember taking the trip out to San Francisco and going to Oakland to catch this workout.
And we kind of looked at each other and we said, this is the guy we want.
The great thing about being part of that decision was getting to know DeMar, getting to know his upbringing, getting to know him as a young man and the things that were important to him.
DeMar checked all the boxes in a right way. Even though he grew up in a tough area, he was protected by the people in that neighborhood because of how special he was. And it wasn't necessarily just a special athlete. I think he was a special person, and they knew it.
He came to Oakland to watch me work out, and he was so impressed, and he told me if I was available at 9, he was going to take me.
Getting ready for the draft, you know, in the back waiting for everybody. Got my boy Stephen. About to go see what's up with T. Will, Jay Harden. They go Blakey Blake. Black and purple. You already know. About to head to the draft. About to enjoy this moment, man. Holla at my man Johnny Flynn, see what he think.
DeMar DeRozan, this is it. This is what we waited for forever, man. And this night is it, man. It's crazy.
Alley-oop to Blake Griffin.
It's my time.
It's my time.
All the talk is done. It is time for the NBA draft to begin.
With the first pick in the 2009 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Clippers select Blake Griffin. With the third pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden. The Golden State Warriors select Stephen Curry.
New York was next. They wanted Steph, but he went one pick earlier. So Bryan's nervous, because they might take DeMar. But it's the Knicks, and the Knicks always do Knicks things.
With the 8th pick, the New York Knicks select Jordan Hill from the University of Arizona.
Yes.
Once he was there at number 9, we knew he was the guy. We all settled in on it. DeMar DeRozan. I was thrilled at the time, you know, with having him as that selection. DeMar, congrats, man. You got a great opportunity ahead of you, okay? Listen, we got a minute 30 here, but the pick's already in. We're very pleased. This is what we wanted all along.
With the 9th pick in the 2009 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select DeMar DeRozan from the University of Southern California.
You know, there are people who say he's got as much potential as any player in the draft.
Bryan had the utmost confidence, belief in me, and you know, without him seeing something bigger in me, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I remember hearing Bryan Colangelo and Mark Eversley saying, "We got our guy." I kind of laughed and rolled my eyes. I said, "Yeah, everybody says that on draft night."
Some people said, "Wow, this is the replacement for Vince Carter, heir apparent," you know, the whole thing. That was a little bit overplayed.
I remember them saying, "This guy's going to be a 10 to 15-year pro. You watch."
We felt like we got a piece that was a block, that was a building block for us and part of that foundation going forward.
He was a young kid. He'd never really been out of LA to live. And the DeMar we know now wasn't DeMar then.
I didn't really know much other than, you know, I was a Vince Carter fan. I knew about the CN Tower, but pretty much that was it. My whole first year, every day was new for me. You know, I remember the first winter. I remember the first day of snow. I remember everything for the first time because it was such a big change for me for the first time in my life.
DeMar's first year was kind of sleepy, though.
You're watching him and couldn't shoot.
Here's DeRozan. He's going to pull up the jumper, air ball.
There wasn't all that much to be excited about.
I remember writing early in his rookie season, this kid's a great athlete, has no idea how to play basketball. If he learns how to play basketball, he's got a chance to be a great player.
Didn't look like he was on his path to NBA stardom to me.
The team is still led by Chris Bosh. But remember when we said he'd break your heart? Well, prepare for the breakage, folks.
If you look on the schedule right now and see Toronto, I'm sure people are checking something in the win box. Nobody really cares.
There's been no discussion whatsoever with respect to trading Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh, as I've said, is the cornerstone of this franchise.
The summer of 2010 was at the time and remains to this day one of the just bigger spectacles of free agency that we've ever seen.
One thing that Colangelo talked about often was he will do his best to sign Chris Bosh to remain as a Raptor, but if not, he is certainly open to his sign and trade.
Well, Tony, it sounds like they have plans to move forward with or without Chris Bosh.
I think Bosh was, at the end of the season, was destined to go. Just a matter of when and where.
Chris Bosh was a free agent, Dwayne Wade was a free agent, Amari Stoudemire, Joe Johnson, Carlos Boozer. Obviously, we remember it mostly for LeBron James, and teams across the NBA had been plotting for years to clear cap room to chase all of these guys.
We in the organization maintained a close relationship with Chris and his representation. We felt like we had a shot.
Chris Bosh had already told Bryan Colangelo that he was going to be leaving.
We were getting news from people around the league that, you know, he seriously was contemplating leaving. We were hearing just the opposite from his agent at the time.
Bryan gave up on him early. I'm never quite sure. Now, he believed we were just completely wasting our time, and he might have been right.
We're going to cut right to the chase. Dwane and Chris. Dwane, we'll start with you. Where are you going to be playing next season?
Well, I'm back in Miami, man. I'm back in, as now, I'm back in Wade County.
Chris, you want to jump in and tell us where you're going to be as well?
Yeah, I'm joining Mr. Wade in Miami.
So that was the first domino to fall, and everybody goes, whoa.
It's almost unfathomable that Chris Bosh left effectively as a free agent.
There's a lot that happens behind the scenes that you don't really know.
I just don't think it was handled all that well. You know, I think the Raptors should have seen that one coming.
And just as you're starting to process that, the other shoe drops.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
I don't think too many people around the league knew until the moment it happened that LeBron James, Dwane Wade, and Chris Bosh had been plotting their own course this whole time.
Wade, LeBron, and Bosh, you know, had that thing cooked up from their time with USA Basketball. It was going down no matter what.
We'll never know, but it sure seems like there was communication among the players.
I'm not sure how many people knew the three of those guys would end up where they did. Kudos to them for putting that together.
You three kings came down here to win championships. Not one, championships.
Not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven.
Okay, maybe just two. Great soundbite, though.
If they were going to do it all over again, trading Chris Bosh before he got to free agency would have been the right move for the franchise.
I look back and people were saying, well, you should have traded him at the trade deadline. Hang on a second. At that point, at the trade deadline, the Raptors had their best record in team history at the All-Star break. And now you want to trade this guy because you think he might not come back?
More than anything, it was an elbow to Chris's face that changed the complexion of everything.
Bosh on the floor. He remains down. You see the blood that is spilled onto the floor. Chris Bosh is going to miss the rest of the regular season, and that could very well mean that there will be no playoffs for the Raptors. It could very well be that he's played his last game in a Raptor uniform.
Okay, hear me out on this one. LeBron passes the ball on the play where Chris gets hurt. Chris doesn't play another game that season. Then in the summer, LeBron and Chris team up in Miami. Man, this LeBron guy is going to be some kind of trouble for the Raptors for years to come.
Chris leaving, I don't think it was so much like I didn't want to play in Toronto anymore as, wow, this is a crazy opportunity.
Just being around a guy like Chris, want to play and learn from a guy like that, it was kind of like a reality check of how, you know, this game goes.
You can't blame him again for choosing a chance to go to a market like Miami and a chance to be part of something that was special.
He had an opportunity to move on and to play alongside one of the greatest of all time. Again, you tell me you wouldn't do that or I wouldn't do that. I think it was, to some extent, a no-brainer for him.
Bosh one-on-one, 5-4-3. Chris, I know you've been asked this a million times. How much was your decision on being a championship contender year after year?
100% of my decision. I didn't want to look back on my NBA career and say I never even had the chance to compete. If you have a situation where you can right off the bat, I'd be a fool not to take it.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat. The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
Back to the summer when Chris left. It was 2010. The team was bad. And in a moment of I don't know what, DeMar puts the city on his back with this tweet.
When he tweets, you know, I got us, it didn't really resonate all that much because kind of who cared? Like, this guy was coming off a rookie season, pretty ordinary by rookie standards, nothing all that exceptional.
I meant it, but it was a young, delusional DeMar at that time that just wanted so much for this place. And I wanted to be the one to bring it.
It was a nice thought, but nobody, I think, really believed that it actually carried any weight.
I loved what DeMar did in the wake of that move by putting out that message like, yeah, I got us.
In a moment of what could have been frustration for others was a sign of like power for him.
Was he in a position to say that with utmost confidence? Probably not yet at that stage of his career, but the fact that he said it speaks volumes about, who he is.
Leaving it for DeMar. Kids dynamite. DeRozan drives in, throws it down with authority. Oh my goodness.
DeMar took it upon himself to say, okay, I'm the next face of the franchise, and it's on me.
And the lousy record, that was on Jay, so he gets fired.
Bryan was feeling pressure, right? He'd come into Toronto as the golden boy, and kind of incrementally, year by year, things continue to kind of unravel. And so all of a sudden, it's Bryan Colangelo who's feeling pressure.
The night that Dwane and the Mavericks won the championship, I got a call. I looked at the phone, and it said Rick Carlisle. It's 1:30 in the morning, and they just literally walked out of the building. Rick Carlisle said, Bryan, I want to know what it's going to take to get Dwane that job in Toronto.
You had an opportunity to hire Dwane Casey, who had just built the defense that had stopped LeBron James in the NBA Finals for Dallas. That seemed like a pretty good switch to make.
Good switch, sure. But Dwane's defense is not going to stop LeBron again. That might even cost him his job someday. We'll get into that in a bit.
I knew going in, the right pieces, starting with DeMar, was there.
He was more than a coach for me. He was a mentor, a father figure, someone who allowed me to be myself on the basketball court.
It was something that we could build on, something we could develop. That was a starting point.
And a tough one for Toronto. Dwane Casey, a disappointing night for a team that he has demanded that they give every ounce of what they have on a nightly basis.
They were in tough shape. It was a tough team to watch. It was arguably one of the lowest points in Raptors history.
So we needed a point guard. We needed some toughness. We needed a pest. We needed some grit.
I went back to an old conversation that I had had with Houston. Kyle had a little bit of a reputation of being something that needed to be managed.
What I remember of Kyle Lowry's early years was he had a bit of a rep for wearing people out and wearing out teams.
Kyle Lowry was considered a little bit of a problem child.
The biggest question mark with Kyle was exactly why things hadn't clicked. There were expectations on Kyle Lowry, and he hadn't met them yet.
Morning, everybody. Very excited to announce the acquisition of Kyle Lowry to address the future of the point guard position.
It made perfect sense for us to acquire a top 5 point guard in our minds and unleash him and let him go.
I'm excited to be here. It's a great opportunity for myself. I was a kid coming in here with attitude, not wanting to be here.
You heard that, right? Kyle, arguably the greatest Raptor of all time, did not want to be a Raptor.
It was tough in the beginning because, I had Jose Calderon, who crowd favorite, Raptor favorite right there. And again, me trying to establish myself, I probably handled it wrong as far as, hey, we're doing it my way, we're going to do it this way. You're not coming in from Houston doing it this way.
Was he a pain in the butt sometimes for the coaching staff, his teammates? Absolutely.
There's almost an expression around the Raptors organization, and it's Kyle doing Kyle shit.
People in the organization, oh man, we can't do this. We can't handle this.
There's a lot of clips online of him kind of bantering back and forth with me or other reporters, kind of being a bit of a jerk.
I'll ask him if they'll ask questions. I just said no. You know what that is. Next question.
Why is it just a regular season game? I mean, you got.
Why is it? What is this?
Why is it just? I'm asking.
But what is it though? Well, what are we in right now?
Regular season.
There you go. Where are we at?
Game 23.
Of what?
82.
Of what?
The regular season.
There you go. Next question.
I just couldn't stand him. We were so opposite of people.
Not a typical guy, you don't know what to expect from him. He likes to do certain things on his own way.
Even from his standpoint, it was just like, all right, I'm here and I'm leaving soon. It didn't feel like it was going to be anything established much.
He was just passing through, just another guy in that locker room.
The Kyle that arrived here, what would that Kyle have said about all this?
He probably just said some stupid stuff, immature stuff. But he knew what he wanted to be. He knew what he was going to try to be.
From an encore perspective, Kyle made sense pretty much right away.
What about Kyle Lowry? Nothing but great accolades thrown his way, how he's performed so far, Jack.
David, he's been impactful. I think that's the best word to use.
You saw the path to this guy being a winner.
Ultimately, a trade was made where Jose Calderon was no longer part of our team. It kind of opened the door for Kyle to play a bit more.
The best thing I could do as a coach, and you learn as you get experience in this league, is sometimes you gotta let guys be themselves. It didn't take me long to figure out that Kyle was 99% of the time right.
The fact of the matter is Kyle committed to doing the right things and handling things in a more probably mature professional way.
It's business, never personal. And to that point, Kyle and DeMar were not friends.
I think there was an element of neither one of them was sure what their long-term future was, whether that was together. Kyle is always a little prickly with new people, it seems.
He didn't even have DeMar DeRozan's number. They sat beside each other in the locker room.
We just kind of was teammates, and it was just like, what's up? What's up?
It just felt like it didn't mesh well, but I admired how he approached the game. He had everything that I wanted.
What wasn't wanted anymore, though, was Bryan's services. The team wasn't very good, and the new boss, he was making changes.
Well, the announcement today obviously reflects that I've relinquished the general manager's title and duties. They decided to bring in a new CEO after Richard Petty had left.
I think when Tim Leiweke came and needed to change something, I don't think he and Bryan were going to get along. And I think Tim just sort of tried to find a way to make it work, but it was never going to.
We have knee-jerked way too often in the past. We've made short-term decisions, not long-term decisions.
That new CEO decided he wanted to go a different direction basketball-wise. I know that there was some criticism on his part for the trade of Kyle Lowry. It was decided that they were going to make a move in basketball operations.
And Masai Ujiri was his first choice.
This might be the most important move in franchise history. Trust me, just trust what he's going to do.
I had been here from 2007 to 2010, so I knew what the program was, and it felt like the right job to take. And I thought there was definitely something to build and to grow from.
From the first time that Masai and I sat down and I was trying to convince him to come back to Toronto, we talked about a vision for the club and what we needed to do. Him and I both completely agreed. We had to go make difficult decisions.
Masai, he had been with us for a bit before he went on, and he showed how smart he is, and went to Denver, did a tremendous job. And you can see the genius of him.
Credit to the Toronto Raptors for every time in that era that they decided to make a change at the head of basketball operations, they were managing to grab one of the most recent executives of the year.
Masai was the first guy who took it personally when people talked down on Toronto. And I think the fans needed that kind of backing from the general manager. Okay, screw you. We don't care. You don't want to come here? Don't come here. We'll find guys who want to come here, and we'll beat you.
It ain't my fault y'all traded me, man. I don't have no control over that. If I did, I damn sure wouldn't go to Toronto.
Pause here for a sec. That's Rudy Gay now. This is him back then. Masai's about to ship him out of town.
Dudes that was there, they're my brothers too, but it's like, man, if I want to get traded, why would I go to Toronto?
Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan, and Kyle Lowry was not working. It was never going to work. One of them had to go.
In 2013, Rudy was traded to Sacramento.
We were really trying to start looking at a possibility of tearing it down.
That was supposed to be the beginning of the great rebuild. And everything after that, honestly, is kind of an accident.
So we make the Rudy Gay trade. We're in LA. Kobe's still playing. We beat the Lakers. It was a sense of sort of freshness around the team.
After you trade Rudy Gay, it would have made all the sense in the world to have then traded away Kyle Lowry.
Me, Cal, we made up our mind that, we was kind of next. We both had in our mind that we was going.
On that flight from, I think we were from LA to Sacramento, I think me and him talked the whole flight. It wasn't a long flight, but we talked the whole flight. It was just straight up, you want to get traded? Nah, not right now. We don't do nothing. We both gonna be traded.
It was more so understood, when we get off this trip and get back home, this deal's in place to have, Cal traded, me traded.
At the time, I think the Knicks were just one of the teams that had approached us on Kyle.
The Raptors reportedly shopping their point guard, Kyle Lowry. Initially, it was the Knicks who were interested. Now it seems like the Nets. What's the latest?
I think the Knicks, they have a better shot of landing him, but let's face it, the Raptors are rigging for Wiggins like no team in the NBA right now. Clearly, they want that #1 pick, and they're going to do what they can to make it happen.
If you don't know who Andrew Wiggins is, he's Canadian, and he was the top prospect in the draft that year.
Kyle will tell you he was packed to go to New York. He was ready to go. If they trade Kyle, they bottom out, and that would have been really the tear down than you're taking for Wiggins.
I had called my boys like, yo, I need you to meet me in New York. I'm about to get traded there. I'm about to get in a plane. I had 2 duffel bags sitting there, waiting for the call to say your flight number is blah, 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 blah.
The Knicks at that time had been burned in a lot of different deals.
The problem with that trade was Masai Ujiri had kind of won 2 previous trades with the New York Knicks.
The biggest one was probably the Carmelo Anthony trade. James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, had basically taken over the negotiations. It was kind of universally viewed that the Knicks got taken advantage of in that deal. That James Dolan, frankly, got taken advantage of in that deal.
Subsequently, the first significant trade that Masai Ujiri made as a Raptor was trading Andrea Bargnani to the New York Knicks, and that kind of blew up in the Knicks' face as well.
They absolutely got hosed in that one. So now Kyle Lowry becomes available, and there's certainly a case to make the deal for him. And yeah, Dolan got involved again, this time to basically say we're not doing the deal.
And James Dolan came in and says, look, I'm not doing this deal because if Masai Ujiri's on the other end of the phone, I don't want to look like an idiot.
And the call never came. The opposite call came and said, you're staying. It's like, all right.
The greatest non-trade in the history of the Toronto Raptors is Kyle Lowry to the New York Knicks.
Had things been a little bit different, he would have been in town and out of town in a couple of years, and nobody would think twice about Kyle Lowry.
Anybody who thought Kyle Lowry was going to be who Kyle Lowry became and who he is today, you'd have probably had them examined, their head examined.
And then that's where you become, like, you got to understand your professionalism, because you still got to go back the next day and go to work.
And that's when we took off.
The Raptors will improve to 6-3 since the trade, 12-15 overall, 4-1 in the division. They return home tomorrow after one of their most successful road trips that I can remember.
Once Rudy was traded, that really kind of forced Kyle and DeMar, we're in this together.
And everything started to click.
Kyle Lowry hit the floor and played like a maniac.
Like the whole team just changed. We kind of formed an identity.
For the first time since January 8th of 2010, the Toronto Raptors have a winning record after 30 games.
The fact that this trade kind of turned the fortunes of the team and the franchise so quickly, I don't think anybody really saw that part of this coming.
Sometimes you put the nicest guys in the room and they not click together. Sometimes you put just by accident and everything is clicking, everything is working.
It started to come together to our surprise, I think, and to the NBA's surprise at that time. It didn't take very long to say, hey, we may be onto something.
We, the North, far from the East Side, miles from the West Side, nowhere near the South Side. We are the North Side, a territory all our own. And if that makes us outsiders, we're in.
We the North, you start to see the transition of us starting to be respected, starting to be seen. It was incredible.
It was really that point with We the North, with that team. We know, right, who we are as people, who we are as a team. We don't need anybody's validation.
Jurassic Park, Red Square, Raptors Square. It has truly been the talk of the NBA.
When we got to the playoffs, to see the atmosphere like it was for the first time, Jurassic Park being created.
Jurassic Park had just kind of become a thing. And there's this intense crowd out there who are just all fired up, and you're just as fired up as they are.
Fans was behind us, all this Jurassic thing, it was people outside gathering, bonding, and just supporting us. It was special.
You got to give so much credit to Masai for, changing so much of that identity that we desperately needed.
I got one thing to say before we go into the game.
Masai Ujiri being up on a stage, addressing this absolutely rabid throng of thousands of Raptors fans.
What other general manager, team president in the league is out kind of basically being a hype man for his own team in front of a live crowd?
And ending it with Brooklyn. That was incredible. It's the kind of thing where you see it and you go, did he just really say that? You can't do that. But I love that he just did that.
It was great. I thought, that right there showed, I think, our team and our fans that edge, and I thought Masai brought that with that one comment at that time.
Looking back at it, it was everything. It was instinctive. It was in the moment. It was strategic. We needed to believe in ourselves here.
I actually enjoyed, and I know the league didn't, but I'm glad he did it. And I know the league, like I said, the league office wasn't, but I was glad he did it.
I apologize to kids out there and to the Brooklyn guys. Nothing against them, just trying to get our fans going. That's it. Is that
That's
how you
it.
feel, Masai?
Is that how you feel, Masai?
You know how I feel. Thanks, guys. Thank you. I apologize. I won't answer any questions, but you know how I feel. I don't like them, but I apologize. There was momentum for us, and there was a rise in our fans, and there was a rise in the We the North campaign, so. Some ways I think, the organization and the league doesn't mind that, maybe.
First time the Raptors have been in the playoffs since 2008. Their last postseason series win was 2001.
It was crazy to play in that arena. It was crazy to step on a court and just battle. To be in that kind of atmosphere, it's what you wish for.
You can't draw up better first-round matchups than that in terms of how close it was and how dramatic the actual series was, too.
Remember about a half an hour ago when we said it would take 7 years for the Raptors and Nets to play a Game 7? All right, let's go.
Game 7. You know what's on the line. Everything matters.
Game 7. It was one of the most dynamic, loud, enthusiastic moments that I've experienced in my coaching history.
DeRozan step back three. And Pierce to the basket to finish. Paul Pierce has played in 8 Game 7s, more than the entirety of the Raptors team.
Spin move, step back, back shot, good!
Yeah, we're right there. All right, we got to play with confidence. We got to get all loose ball. We got to get stops down here. Got to get stops, keep the paint tight.
8.8 remaining. Livingston still looking. Ross got a hand on it. Ross got it. Threw it off of Pierce. It's Raptors ball, and they have a chance to win the series. Unbelievable.
It has come down to this. One moment.
I think the play ended up being broken. I think they ran it on the wrong side of the floor.
It wasn't set up on the wrong side. The play was designed for Kyle to get to his left hand, which he's been lethal with all year.
Vasquez gets it to Lowry. At 5 seconds, Lowry. Williams a tight defense. Here is Lowry on the deck. Through 2. Lowry put it up. It's blocked by Pierce, and the Nets win the series.
I knew how bad my team needed it and wanted it, and it was just like an unfortunate, damn. It's really over, and we thought we had a chance to do something special.
So it doesn't go in, it came close, and then you've got Kyle and DeMar kind of embracing on the floor.
When Kyle missed the layup and he was on the ground and I kind of knelt over him, to me that was one of the most indicative emotions of, how we was there for one another that whole season.
That embrace kind of put it in motion. He told me he did everything, he happy with what happened, live with that result.
I think they were encapsulated everything about what had happened and what was going to happen.
We were the higher seed, but we were playing against the Hall of Famers, and we were just babies trying to figure out how to be toddlers. You know what I mean? We were taking those steps to becoming a better group, of becoming better men, becoming better basketball players.
The next year, they'd run into Paul Pierce again, this time with the Wizards. He was clowning the Raptors, saying they didn't have it, and he wasn't talking about Pennywise.
You said that they didn't have the it factor.
It was something that I said from day one. I just
saying what I felt.
Kicks out to Pierce, gets off the three. What did you expect from the two? And that'll do it. The Washington Wizards sweep the Toronto Raptors and will advance to the second round.
Yeah, Paul Pierce, who's like an old man by that point, and he's calling you out. You don't have it. You know, you don't have that single player, that defining stud that really good teams seem to have. And, you know, he was right.
That Brooklyn series I had made some great games. And then the next year, I played like trash.
I kind of knew that there was some tension between him and Dwane Casey. I think if he had his way, Dwane Casey probably would have been fired.
I think we didn't reset our drive when playoff time came.
It's those moments of like realizing like you got to be better. How do you get better? Do you want to get better? What are you gonna do? Don't just talk about it, be about it.
It's somewhere around here, maybe slightly earlier, when the bond between Kyle and DeMar solidifies.
The best stories in the NBA are the ones you can't see coming.
Kyle and DeMar became best friends.
Yeah, I don't want to be like you at all. I don't want to be like you.
Any type of skill set that he had.
Nice. You might want my hair though. My hair is better than yours.
It was like yin and yang, and they both like balance each other out because Kyle could go off the rails sometime, and DeMar was always that like steady, cool, calm, and collected person until somebody riled him up.
Man, any chance we get, man, stop playing with me, man. I'm trying to be professional.
Being out here, out west, is always awesome.
DeMar, same thing? Just
same exact thing.
Yeah.
That's my lawyer.
Yeah.
Does it surprise you guys?
You don't pay me enough.
You know, Kyle and DeMar had this unique friendship on the court and unique friendship off the court.
Yo! We out here riding, we rolling.
Ain't nothing but usual.
To watch those two guys grow, it was beautiful to see.
You know, if Kyle's around, DeMar's around. Coach Kyle, you want to take over here?
How's it feel to get 40 points again? It doesn't matter how it feels.
Everybody just been on the same page.
Yo, you got some deals?
It's in my bag, bro.
In your bag?
Yeah.
Took it?
No, it's right there.
Right here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Teammates looking up.
Yeah, man, you know, it's...
To see them grow as friends in a really, really, I think, authentic way, and it wasn't natural at first, you know, was really cool to watch from afar.
You know, they didn't even have each other's cell phone numbers. You know, so obviously to go from that to literally best friends, I think is one of the, you know, it's one of the sweetest chapters really in Raptors history.
You have to FaceTime Kai, and if Kai pick your call, then you say from this. If he don't, you have to take a shot. Now we're gonna find out if your friendship and Kai, you guys be talking about it.
Please answer the phone.
Thank you!
Thank you! Thank you! If you didn't answer, I would have had to drink all this
cricket.
All these cricket juice.
Hey, you know you can count on me, brother.
Thank you! Hey, I love you. Thank you, bro. That's all. Hey, hold on. Look.
This boy's lucky, man.
I'm always come through.
Thank you, love.
You should have answered the call, man.
I'll call you when I finish.
All right.
The partnership with Lowry and DeRozan just felt so seamless, so perfect, so easy.
They were the culture, they were the hub, they were the voice of the team.
Oh, you out? I won't see you.
Yeah,
good luck, man. Call me after your surgery.
Love happens. I FaceTime when I'm...
Yeah, FaceTime me when you all gowned up, got the thing on, when you coming off the IV and all that. Yeah, whatever that.
He's going to the Masters tomorrow. Look, he's going to the Masters.
He can't even golf, so.
No.
Why are you a hater?
They were good leaders, first of all. You know, they're different personalities, but they're good leaders. They showed the way, they showed by example.
They relied on each other. They knew what each other were going to do. Really like a dynamic duo, you know, like for a period of time, you know, like they really put their mark on the league.
Kyle knew, like, okay, DeMar's our go-to guy. Now I've got to step up and kind of fill in for some of that stuff. I thought that gave us a good sense of direction, and DeMar just kept going. Kyle certainly took a big leap.
We know what Kyle would do. Call him a pit bull. He played bigger than his size. He was relentless. DeMar DeRozan is very soft-spoken, sweetheart of a guy. But DeMar DeRozan will cut your heart out to win a basketball game.
They are just playing at such a high level. DeMar DeRozan easily playing the best basketball of his career. Kyle Lowry, he's the engine. He's the guy that picks his team up and gets them to where they need to go. And what I really enjoy about these two is that they love playing together.
Same way guys like that, Vince, Damon Stoudemire, Chris Bosh, all these different guys' time. I hope our moment, is right up there with them.
This is a pretty unlikely star duo to build a perennial playoff contender around, or perennial might win the East team around. And that's what made that team so enjoyable. It's the contender you couldn't see coming.
But the contender the Raptors always saw was LeBron. He's been haunting Toronto since he took Chris Bosh. 6 years later, the LeBronto era has begun. And it would be here for another 3 more.
Coaching in the NBA, you're only as good as your last season. We knew that we still hadn't made that next step.
Facing LeBron the first time in 2016 was, for an organization that had won a championship and hadn't been to a conference final before, it's almost the crowning achievement at that point.
During the regular season, Cleveland won 57 games, Toronto 56. The Cleveland Cavaliers win the Eastern Conference Final in 6 games and now advance to the NBA Finals.
There weren't expectations for the Raptors to beat the Cavs at that point. That was still the peak of LeBron and the peak of the Cavs.
During that time, LeBron is LeBron for a reason. Arguably one of the greatest players that ever played this game.
There was a validation at that time, too. That validation was from LeBron, after beating the Toronto Raptors.
Do you hear this?
They're
Do you
incredible.
hear this? Unbelievable respect and much respect to these fans, to this country. This is unbelievable. I've never been a part of something like this in my 13-year career. This is special, and they really appreciate what their team did.
I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it because, just hearing the Raptor fans, and for LeBron in that moment to say, well, these fans, right, they're the best. They're unbelievable. I mean, listen to how they've embraced that team over there. It was truly special.
Welcome to Cleveland, Game 1 on tap between the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
It's us versus everybody else as soon as that ball go up, and we kind of keep that mentality when we go out there.
Oh, they double team, but it leads to this. Irving off the backboard with James.
LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals by sweeping the Toronto Raptors.
Kind of the talk of that season and some of the roster moves had been about, okay, how do you take the next step? And that next step is centered on LeBron. How do you beat LeBron?
He was the difference. He was the thing that kept that Raptor team from being really, really good a lot earlier than it was.
It was a curse. LeBron ruled the East.
You're going to have to be on all cylinders each and every time you went up against LeBron James at that stage to beat him.
In 2018, it's the Raptors who have the best record in the East. It's the Raptors who have the home court advantage. It's the Raptors who have a bench to complement the DeRozan and Lowry backcourt. But it's the Cavs who have LeBron.
I felt like we were always going to beat them. I thought that year we had it, being the #1 seed.
James with 10 to shoot. The fadeaway for the tie, yes!
And what happens at the end of game 1 is they get like 4 cracks at a game winner at the buzzer.
DeRozan drives in, gives it up, Van Fleet back in, a three! No good! DeRozan in and out! 3 seconds! Tipping Valanciunas, that won't go! There's a lid on the rim!
We missed a layup. We had a tip in. We might have had 2 tip-ins at it. Went to overtime.
DeRozan drives in. DeRozan, ball fake, kick out. Van Fleet, 3 seconds. Van Fleet, no good. Cleveland's got the rebound, and it's over. They steal game 1 in Toronto.
If we would have won game 1, it kind of changes the face of the series.
That just shifted the momentum of everything we kind of had built. right there.
If you were going to finally beat LeBron and you were going to deliver on that, handing him a game at the buzzer of game one was just something you couldn't do.
The game plan, it's not working. And you got to say, we're going to draw it up again, and it's still not working.
We the North.
We the North. If you had one
Toronto will win tomorrow.
James 5 seconds. James 3 seconds.
Throws up the floater.
After LeBron hit that crazy one-legged runner, me and Fred looked at each other in locker room and knew something was gonna happen. Knew change was coming.
They needed to change the coach. That decision was made in game 3. You've got LeBron James, tie game, and you don't double team him.
I think guys were disappointed that it was only on him. It wasn't just on Casey.
Masai Ujiri, who can run pretty hot. He went into Dwane Casey's office and, he let him have it.
At that point, he was like, okay, what is the problem now? Is the coach is the problem, or is it because LeBron is too good?
It was pretty clear that there was going to be a coaching change, and Dwane Casey was going to be gone.
Dwane Casey and his Toronto Raptors swept out of the second round by the Cavaliers.
That was the crushing one. You were the better team, you were the first seed, and you blow it.
Only time we got into trouble is when we faced LeBron James. You get that close, and then he was like, wow, what is missing? Something's missing.
It's kind of like beating your head against the ceiling, and you keep trying and trying.
As to them hitting their heads on the ceiling, the glass ceiling that they thought they could look and crack through, well, it happened to be LeBron James in the East. The same way the Knicks couldn't get past Michael Jordan in their day. Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, they don't have rings because Michael Jordan had all the rings at that point.
This is sometimes someone just has your number, and we tried a lot of things, and he was just that damn good.
Look at the best teams in the East during that 3, 4, 5-year stretch. Everybody lost to LeBron. So this narrative that he was just doing against Toronto, I think, is completely false.
When the peak of your franchise's success coincides with LeBron James going to 8 straight NBA Finals out of the same conference that you're in, sometimes you just gotta throw up your hands and say, you know what, it just wasn't our time. This wasn't meant for us.
If you're counting, the Raptors lost 10 straight playoff games to LeBron. 10! Masai was about to take a huge risk.
Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan were really, really great players, but they weren't at that perennial top 5, top 10 level that in the NBA you usually need to win championships.
Of course, when there is not progress, we always thinking something need to be changed, something have to change.
Something has to shake. We didn't know what it was, whether it was going to be Kyle, DeMar, one of them, both of them. We definitely knew some type of change was coming.
I was here when we was bad. We struggled, and I wanted to change that.
It's not very often you see the Raptors and blockbuster trade in the same sentence, but that's exactly what exploded this morning in the wee hours.
You don't blame your GM for making the deal if you're DeRozan. You blame him if he lied to you.
There's always going to be hurt if you are traded.
We just traded you to San Antonio, and I was like,